What's up guys, it's your boy CJ here, back into the video. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm doing pretty well myself. Pardon the sound of rain and probably sound of background crying if there is, because my brother's home as well as raining outside. Anyway, so today is the first episode of the Camera Basics series. And you got yourself your first DSLR for the first time and you have no idea what's anything on the screen indicates me. So basically, there are multiple functions in a camera, and today we're going to be covering the one of the most basic parts, which is the shutter speed. Now, where is the shutter speed located? Now, I have here is on a Canon 650D. It's located as on the screen right now as where I'm pointing, as that is the part where the shutter speed is. Normally it's divided, it has a number that is divided by, it's a fraction basically, and you basically adjust it between maybe 150 to 130, 200, or maybe up to maybe down to seconds, maybe zero double strokes, and 4, depending how you set it up, of course. Now, what does shutter speed do? Now, shutter speed is a function whereby you adjust the amount of time you want, how fast you want the shutter to close. Now, if you guys don't know that camera DSLR especially has a shutter. Now, it's basically, if you open up the lens, you can see inside here on the shutter. Now, I'm going to click on shutter, I'm going to set it up to 1/60th, and you're going to see what happens. Now, there you can see that there's a shutter going down. That's the shutter inside that. Now, what does it do basically? Now, let's say I have it on 1/60th of a second. Now, remember the 1-60 means 1/60th of a second. It's a fraction basically by denominator and numerator. So, I'm going to show you what happens if I set it down to 1/4. It's going to be very slow. Now, what happens if I set it up to 1/2500? 1/2500. It's very long. It's very high. See how fast that is? That's incredibly fast in comparison to 1/4. I'm going to do it again. Now that's 1/4 and 1/2500. It's basically how fast you want the shutter to come down. Of course, you can set this up to maybe minutes depending on what it does. And if you guys are wondering, let me show you again what happens if you set it even longer than 1/4 of a second. Now I'm gonna set it to the longest possible setting, which is 30 seconds. It's just gonna stay down there. As you can see, I'm not sure you can see that. The shutter is basically down for 30 seconds. It's not gonna come up. It's only gonna come up after 30 seconds. Which is pretty long. Now, while we're waiting for this thing to come down, I'm going to tell you about what the most good things about this thing is, and why do we need to adjust the shutter. Now, it depends on all the lighting as well as how fast you want the subject to move. Now, let's say for example, I'm moving at this rate. I'm moving my hand at an incredibly fast rate, and let's say if I put it at 1/30th of a second, like right now, 1/30th of a second, the effects is going to be like this. Now, let's say I change it to maybe 1/200th of a second. Now, the effects is going to be considerably different. Now, the effects is going to be like this. So, as you can see, the blur indicates how fast you want the light to come in. So, I'm going to put this back on before it catches fungus. Yep. Alright. So, what are the basically uses for these things? As I've shown you just now, you can not only stop the motion in track. Then you might be wondering, of course I want the motion stop and track. Isn't that the basic function of taking photography? True and not true. Now, let's say if you put your shutter for a long period of time, the effects is going to come out is what we call as light trails. Let's say, for example, if you watch look a lot on Instagram and look at those cars leaving light trails, those are not digital effects. Those are actually can be done with your camera by setting your shutter speed to a very long time. For example, 30 seconds, which what I did just now. So it's going to take quite a while before it ever comes down again. Now, do keep in mind that the there's no definitive way about how long you should set your shutter speed. Now, unless you're talking about this thing, technically there's really no, sorry, I'm really rambling on right now. Technically, there's no definitive way on how fast you should set your shutter speed to a standard. Of course, there is a universal standard for me personally. I use 1/125th of a second because, no, 1/125th of a second. Now, the reason I do that is because for work purposes, I'm a professional photographer, so I use that settings for most of the time to capture moments. However, it depends on you personally. Some people prefer it to have longer, some people prefer it to have a shorter amount of time. It depends on what you're taking. Now, there's a multiple instances of a long shutter speed benefit, and there's multiple instances of short shutter speed benefits. Now, some of which I'm going to display it right now with the amount of shutter speed on top, and it's going to be really the effects are really cool if you really know how to use it. It's a very powerful tool within the DSLR. One of the reasons why you might want to get a DSLR is because you can control everything manually. So yeah, that's the basic idea of the shutter speed. Of course, you're gonna have to experiment with yourself to get different effects. Now, do keep in mind, one more thing is that the lower your shutter speed goes, the brighter your picture's gonna get because the more light's gonna come in. Let's say you go in higher, the opposite effect is gonna come out. So the less time you let your shutter to come down, the less light is gonna come in. So you have to compensate with other things, which we're gonna cover in the next episode. Anyway, so this is basically the basic camera functions about shutter speed. If you guys like this video, do drop a comment to tell me what I can improve on. Maybe you have questions, I'm going to answer them, of course. I can't possibly cover everything, otherwise it's going to be a very, very long time. Anyway, so it's your boy CJ. Do like and subscribe, hit the notification button, and of course share out to your friends. Let them know how to use all these things. It's going to be very fun. Anyway, it's your boy CJ. I'll see you guys in the next video.